Hello everyone, welcome. My name is MJ Pestridge. Welcome to another P3D flight simulation, whatever you want to call it, video. Today we're going to talk about the biggest reasons for crashes and not STDs, CTDs that people face with flight simulation and like P3D in particular, but this is a broad all flight simulation. First off, I want to say flight simulation is a very intensive program. It's not like playing a game where you're in a confined level, and you've only got like a small radius to load. Flight simulation is really, generating or rendering like worlds, rendering large, massive areas of the flight. Not only that, but also loading in complex aircraft, highly detailed airports, terrain that has been updated to make it look fantastic, even if you're flying in the new Microsoft Sim, it's loading quite a lot of data because you've not only got the scenery, the airplanes, the weather, but you've also got all that data that connects it all together, the navigational data, which are, data within the sim, and it has to all be calculated, all CPU intensive. So same with the GPU, it's very GPU intensive to render everything. Now, all of this information is flying around on wherever you've installed it, and for P3D, I would probably recommend installing it into its default location on the C drive and making sure that that is an SSD drive. That is going to give you the best speed, over a HDD drive. If you're rocking a HDD drive, trade it in, save up your money, trade it in, make that your next purchase. Food is overrated. Because speed is essential when you're dealing with flight simulation. Not only speed, but power as well. You really want power. So, for P3D in particular, I would say you want a base speed of a CPU of about 3.8. Anything less than that, unless you can boost it above 4. Okay? If you can get a CPU where it's boosted above 4 gigahertz, you're laughing all the way to the bank. You're already on a good, set. We're going to be talking about crashes. We're going to be talking about CTDs. We're going to be talking about, what is the one big major, sort of cause, or how can you most eliminate crashes? Well, first off, if you ever do have a crash, the very first thing you should do is head into your event viewer, because that will give you the reason why it crashed. Open up your Windows logs in the application section, and you'll have, once it sort of, accumulates all the information, you'll have like a red. Let me see if the last time I had a crash.
2 hours later.
Here we go. Error. So coatal basically bit it for me. You'll have an error here. Have a look at the faulting application path, and then this was the reason. The faulting module path. It was a UCTR based DLL. I ain't bothered about that one, to be honest. Just a restart of the coatal 64 or even an update will fix that. So I ain't bothered about that. But this is the best thing to do. If it says, for instance, if it was to say P3D here as the faulting module, that means nothing, by the way. Because what this is, if it was to say like just P3D exe here, like that doesn't mean anything. That just means P3D was the last thing to report an error, okay? So it doesn't really tell you why, but that's the first thing you should do. But why do you get crashes? Why do we get crashes, man? Why do we have to put up with this shit? Right?
It takes so many things to make love last. Most of all, it takes respect. And I can't live with the man I don't respect.
Right? Well, I'll tell you what it is. flight simulators, like I said, are very complex things. A lot of data moving around, and you do need a beefy PC to handle this. So your CPU, your memory, and your GPU are your three main components, and you want these running at your best. Now, I've done videos in the past on how you can get the most out of your GPU, how you can optimize your memory so it basically clears it every so often and doesn't build up a massive cache. If we have a look at the cache here, 1.7 gig. If we go into my task scheduler, I've created a schedule here in my library which basically will clear my memory every 10 minutes, you know, and so when I come back here, oh, it's cleared the cache. This helps just to keep my memory clean and running smooth. If you're running FS Labs planes, unfortunately, you can't use this unless they've updated recently, but they use the cached memory for their displays, and so if you clear that out, you lose your displays in flight. So sorry to hear that. But your memory, CPU, GPU, you want these running at top dollar. Your CPU, to be honest, your CPU, you kind of want a base speed of at least 4 gigahertz. I've always said that for years, and even more so in 5.3, because, yeah, 5.3 P3D or current, you know, Microsoft Flight Simulator might be running great, you know, with 3.5 gigahertz, but then you want to throw in a lot of add-ons which are also going to need calculations. Now you need a faster CPU that can handle not only the speed, but also the processors. You want as many processors as you can get your hands on. I've only got 4 because I don't have hyper threading enabled. If I was to enable it, I'd have 8. And then I could balance out my load of P3D over those 8 and my operating system and all my add-ons, and it would keep the utilization better. My utilization goes up to like 80%. It really gets used, so I don't really have to worry. But trust me, the amount of stuff we throw in our flight sims, your CPU, your memory, and your GPU needs to be working good. If these 3 items are not working, then you're going to get crashes. Also, if you do have stuff that is running great, you know, like you've got the top dollar specs, but you're still getting crashes or stutters, you know, then there's something you can do about it. So first things first is make sure that your Windows operating system, I would say, is running smoothly and clean. And how we do that is type sfc/scan now in a command prompt, which you've run as administrator, and you run this. And of course, everybody knows, who's into flight simulation probably knows about this command prompt, but what all it does, for those of you who don't, is that it scans your Windows operating system files, doesn't touch your personal files, but it scans those, and if it goes, hey, you look ill, you look like you're errored, you look like you're corrupt, it will actually fix it for you. So if you do have any Windows problems, this is the great time to fix it. Now, this scan on a CPU, because it's CPU bound scan, if it takes more than 3 minutes to do this scan, I would say you need to look into your CPU, because maybe upgrade your CPU, or your CPU isn't being like utilized at its most, you know. So like if we look at my CPU right now, it's like 60% being utilized. That's a good utilization, you know. This scan doesn't take much, you know, CPU at all, to be honest, but it's like, if this takes longer than 3 minutes to do, then your CPU isn't fast enough or isn't being used. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, CPU speed, mate, doesn't actually make a difference, right? It does in flight simulation. The amount of time it takes to calculate things in a flight sim and then pass it off to the GPU is crucial for speed. In gaming, maybe not so much, because the GPU will handle most of that game, but in flight simulation, our CPU gets nailed. If I was to start up P3D or even Microsoft, you would see that one of these would start to get really hammered, or they all would get hammered, and that's because flight simulation is intensive on the hardware, and we are all bound by our hardware. If our hardware is not up to it, then our flight sim will suffer. So if this process here takes longer than 3 minutes, go, something wrong with my CPU. Maybe my speed isn't good enough. Maybe, my CPU isn't good enough. Maybe my CPU is being hampered by something. Maybe it's overheating. Keeping a regular eye on your temperatures of your CPU. For instance, we run this little program here, HW Monitor. I'll put this in my Discord in the free FLIGHTSIM assets channel. The link is down below. If your cores here, your CPU cores, are running in the 70s constantly, like mine are in the 40s right now, and because I'm not really doing anything but recording this video, that's good. If it was running in the 70s, I'd be like, my CPU is running hot. Why? Are the fans not working? Is the liquid cooling or water cooling or whatever cooling you've got not doing its job? Do I need to clean out my radiators maybe? Looking into all of that. So it didn't find anything, and it did it within 3 minutes. I know my hardware is kosher. But that's the first thing you do. Basically, a crash to desktop or stutters in your sim, the biggest thing is it's an information travel blockage, okay? What I mean by that is, all this nav data and all this scenery and all these aircraft processes are flying around your PC in the background, okay? All these processes. Look at OBS Studio, man. It's like keeps going in the red on the GPU. Like, this is information travel, okay? We're in the information highway now, okay? And if the information gets blocked, then things can go wrong. For instance, if I was to install anything on my C drive and Windows 10 goes, actually, that single file looks a little dodgy, I'm not going to allow that file, So, for instance, I have my Skyforce Rex in a separate add-on folder for utilities here. And let's say, let's take a file at random. Let's say this image here, whatever it happens to be, community shared flight plan, that's kind of a good important image. But even this one, right, import flight plan, I click this button all the time. What if this one file, Windows 10 thought, you look like a virus, mate? Do you know what? You're going to be quarantined. It'll still be in here, but it'll just won't load or run, or it might even move it to a quarantined area. But in other words, the file is now missing from Skyforce, and Skyforce is looking for this file, and so it's not going to show in the app. And that's because my Windows 10 operating system has gone, you look dodgy, I'm not going to allow you to execute. And really, I'm talking about executables, not picture files, but executables. And of course, if you've got an executable of a plane or a scenery or a simulator, and parts of that executable are not allowed to fully install its package, you're going to have missing files. The data is not traveling now freely around your PC. For that very reason, I make sure all my drives are open for everyone, okay? Everyone can full control, modify, do what you need to do, okay? Allow this. Now, you can do this one or two ways. I've done a video on it. I'll link it down below. You can do it now if you haven't done it, or you can basically reinstall Windows and choose the option for everyone, like personal files for everyone, not just the user, but for everyone. That will basically open up your permissions on your C drive, okay? But I probably would recommend coming in here and doing it anyway. So that way there's no information blockage by Windows 10, but that's not the only thing that's going to be blocking you, okay? So there's in here, you got system and security. Oh, the security of the system. Windows Defender Firewall. Get rid of that shit. Basically, in flight simulation, this will hamper your experience. If this is turned on, basically, it starts scanning everything, right? Even if you have the permissions set here, which I can't really show you now because I bloody disabled Windows Defender. But even if you have allowances in here, it can still get blocked. If Windows Defender chooses, like on one of its off days, to go, yeah, I'm going to be a little bit of a prick to you, and I'm not going to allow you to run this, even if you've had an exclusion set in. And you might have put your exclusions in the back end here under, I don't even know what you do. What is it? Privacy? Like security? It's got to be here, isn't it? Update security. There's a way to do exclusions in here. I don't know because I have everything disabled. Like, I don't know how you do this, because I've basically removed Windows security completely. They're like, none of this is running, because all it does is protect your PC from yourself. Like, Windows 10 doesn't want to be nuked, and it knows its users are little pirate trolls, keyboard warriors who want freebies. You know, they want to go on those torrent sites and download it for free. But you know what? People put in viruses and hacking software into those freebies that you're getting, that you're just now throwing up into your PC. And Windows 10 is smart. It's going, I don't want this shit. I don't want you to destroy me. So it puts all this security in to prevent the user from nuking the PC.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
So Windows 10 does not need to be installed if you're a sensible person who doesn't go downloading illegal shit, bringing trouble through your firewall router, or your router firewall, you know, bringing trouble through that and into your PC. Like, that's why I don't even have antivirus on my PC. I turn off all Windows security, and I don't even run Windows Defender.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Why? Because the router that I connect to has a firewall and protects my PC from attacks. You know, my IP provider is not an idiot. It's Richard Branson.
ニュースの実感です。宇田発音が伝えます。ヘッドストライカー。
Okay, and so he doesn't want a virus spreading around his network, destroying customers. So they put firewalls in the routers to prevent idiots, you know, from destroying, you know, and downloading whatever. So again, I don't download any of this dodgy shit, so I've removed every security thing. Now, that means that information can freely travel around my C drive. Maybe that's why I hardly get crashes, you know, whereas everybody's like, oh, I can't run this and I can't run that, and this is crashing and that's not, oh, it's not working, stuttery FPS and all this. Well, maybe it's because the Windows 10 operating system is hampering your experience because it doesn't want you doing stuff, you know, against it. So like, even Windows Update is turned off. Like, it says here I'm up to date, and the last checked was 9 o'clock this morning, but it's actually turned off. Like, it doesn't actually run. Stopped.
Surely you can't be serious.
You know, so is Windows Search. A lot of Windows things actually I prevent from running.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
I've stopped a lot of these because they're not needed. They're not needed in flight simulation. You know, I get rid of a lot of this stuff because I don't need it running. You know, I don't need it looking after me. I'll look after myself, thanks. So I prevent all that, and that basically means I have freedom of information travel around my PC. And I believe that's the one biggest thing that people have trouble with: information travel around their PC. So how can you release the freedom on your PC for flight simulation? Well, get rid of Windows Defender.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
And when I say get rid of it, I don't mean actually get rid of it. Prevent it from running when you're running the sim. I have a file in my Discord that you can run that will disable Windows Defender when you're flight simming, and then you re-enable it when you, for everything else, like if you're doing, you know, editing or general, you know, whatever on your PC. But if you want to run Windows Store, you have to have Windows Defender running. This will not update properly or run properly unless Windows Defender is working. See, it's not even starting. It's going, I don't know. Or it's had trouble starting at least. But if I try an update here, look, it's all errored off basically, and that means I need to run Windows Defender so this will actually update properly. And then Windows updates can happen properly. Windows update won't happen unless Windows Defender is running. So you have to kind of activate it, deactivate it, you know, that sort of thing. I don't have any antivirus, as I said before. I just have software that isn't an executable that I run at will to scan for stuff. For instance, one of them is adware cleaner. So it's not an installation, it just runs off that, right? And basically this will scan for any problems and, you know, quarantine them. Now, sometimes it picks up, it says here 21 detections, sometimes it will pick up flight simulator software thinking it's a virus. That's just because the way that the software is created is kind of old school, and so it goes virus, but it's not. So you have to kind of allow files and stuff like that through it. But this I run as well as Malwarebytes. This is what protects me in case somebody's sneaky in, you know, putting crap into their installations, you know, like what FS Labs did years back, you know, trying to find a certain hacker. So if somebody's done that again, I can nuke it if it, you know, if it does make it past. But to be honest, I don't think that's ever happened actually on my PC. Anyway, basically that's it, guys. Information travel is the biggest cause of CTDs, okay? Problems with your PC is because the information cannot freely travel around. Now, I've got a video how to build a beast of a PC for flight simulation.
And you'll have to talk them onto the approach. So help me, you'll have to talk them right down to the ground.
I'm going to link that down below. Follow that video. That is your one biggest defense for flight simulation, for getting great performance, to allow the information to travel freely around your PC.
It's an entirely different kind of flying altogether.
It's an entirely different kind of flying.
And not be hampered by any, you know, quarantining or preventing any file from running. Because when you install something, if it does not install correctly, which you will not know if it does or doesn't, that's where suddenly now you don't have the correct files. It's always best to run a repair after an installation, I find. So like, you know, kind of like when you're downloading Orbex files, verify those files afterwards to make sure you've got every file you need. Because if you don't, things will look weird and you won't know why. Because you go, well, I just installed it, but it doesn't look right. Well, that's because there's missing files, you know. Verify your files. Once you install P3D, Microsoft, whatever, run the repair on it to verify all those files and to make sure it's installed correctly. Go in as a default system, start up a plane default to make sure it's working correctly before you add any add-ons. Because if you don't know if it was running, you know, kosher at default, how are you going to know if it's the add-on or not when it starts to crash on you? Do you know what I mean? Or how do you know if it's not Windows 10 that an update has changed to, you know, not allow something to run properly on your PC? Honestly, Windows 10 is a nightmare and a godsend at the same time. It changes so much. That's why I only allow it to update 2 or 3 times a year. That's it. Anyway, I'm going to go because this video's gone on way too long now. And so information travel, allow freedom around your PC. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, in all my flight sim videos till the end of February, I have one lucky winner who will win a Sim Market gift card loaded with, you know, $50, 50 francs, pounds, lira, whatever it happens to be in your country. So 50 that you can go spend on flight sim add-ons. All you have to be is a subscriber to my channel and leave a comment down below in any one of my videos during February, and you will receive that.
That's impossible. They're on instruments.
One lucky winner, sorry. One lucky winner will. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.